and my organization, we represent stopping the war on African people in the U.S. and abroad. The people in power, the people in power are showing us that genocide and terror is okay unless it is on people with blue eyes and blonde hair. They are making it obvious. The current global order is a violent white supremacy, and unfortunately, that is undermined and supported by violent anti-blackness. We must unite and change it before it's too late. Nancy?
All right, thank you. Thank you, Kendall. And like I said already, my name is Nancy. I'm an organizer with the Answer Coalition, and we are your co-MCs. I'm going to give you a little bit of rundown of how the day is going to go. So we're going to have a few speeches. We have some incredible speakers for y'all tonight. After that, we're going to take a quick march down 16th. So get ready for that. We'll meet back here. And yeah, are y'all ready for that? Yeah! Awesome.
Yeah. And a little bit of background today. So today is March 18th, and it marks the 20th anniversary of the shock and awe invasion in Iraq. Yeah. It was a cruel war based on lives, and thousands, if not millions of people took to the streets to demand peace. To say to our government, not in our name, not with our tax dollars. And it is the kind of movement we are trying to build here today. It may be hundreds today, but tomorrow will be thousands. So are we ready to fight? Yeah! Are we ready to fight? Yes! Are we ready to fight? Yes! All right, well, are you ready for some speakers?
Yes!
Awesome, so...
I'll introduce the first one.
Cool.
Thanks, Kendall. All right, what do we want? No war. When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
No war!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
No war!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
No war!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
No war!
When do we want it?
Now!
Woo, I like y'all. Y'all brought the energy. All right, so on to our speakers. The first speaker is the National Vice President of Veterans for Peace, Mike Wong. Mike, are you here?
This war is a proxy war. Ukraine is not the target of this war. The target of this war is the entire world. The United States is using Ukraine as a proxy against Russia. And why does it want to, as Biden said, lead Russia? Because Russia is the back door to China. And China is a major economy that is coming up quickly and presents an economic challenge to the United States dominance. That's what this is all about. Their goal is to break China and break the entire world in the process, because having a large economy that works cooperatively with other parts of the third world, such as Africa, Latin America, the Middle East, and all of Asia, represents a challenge to American dominance and Americans' ability to exploit the entire world. We fight wars for oil in the Middle East. We fight wars for resources and minerals all around the world. And that's what we're trying to dominate, that's what we're trying to maintain, and that's what all of us who care about peace and justice and equality must oppose. I thank you for standing here today, and I thank you for standing with the people of the entire world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And before we move on, let's do another chant together. So, the people united. The people united will never be defeated. 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 All right, thank you all so much. We're definitely gonna do that one again. But next I want to introduce introduce a retired Superior Court judge and the co-founder of the Pivot to Peace, Julie Tang, if you're available.
I'm here.
Yes.
Thank you all very much for being out here today and stand for peace. So let's hear a big shout out. We stand for peace. We stand for peace. We are joining here with 57% of Americans, according to the Quincy Institute's poll, that wanted the President and Congress to put a stop to this war, to start negotiating, and even if it means that Ukraine must compromise. So far, there's been no effort by the Biden administration to work towards peace. Instead, they are continuing to encourage Ukraine to continue to fight for this proxy war until the last Ukrainian standing. Is that what you want, you guys over there? The last Ukrainian standing? Meanwhile, we Americans are getting very confused. I am getting confused. The Fed said that we are going to nip recession by putting the brake on any more interest rates, and they're going to keep letting the interest rates go up, so that our consumers will stop buying, and then they'll take down the prices, and recession will go down. Well, let me tell you, the recession is not going to go down, because the financial experts who know better than our American leaders say that there will be a recession, and when the recession happens, we are all going to live to regret it. And with this recession, America is continuing to print money. We do have a machine, you know, that prints money to keep sending weapons to Ukraine. And with that, how are you going to beat inflation? And what happens is that consumers like ourselves are continuing to suffer. And the only thing we're helping Ukraine, who is now hoping that we will help them, is that we will again make sure only one Ukrainian will be left standing when the fight is over. Now, while we're sending money and weapons across the Atlantic Ocean, there's a war drum beating over in the largest ocean in the world, and that is the Pacific Ocean. And there, surrounding China, is 400 military bases, 130,000 troops. And Biden is arming Australia with nuclear-powered submarines to navigate, stop, and menace the South China Sea. Japan, my favorite subject, which still has not apologized for the Second World War atrocities committed, has not paid reparations for the Comfort Women, which is a mass gang rape sanctioned by the U.S., by the Japanese military, has not paid reparation or apology to the slave laborers, to the rape of Nanjing victims, is now self-anointing itself as the commander of the Pacific, leading the Philippines and South Korea in a pact called the Maritime Security Cooperation Pact aimed at China. Today, Ukraine, tomorrow, Taiwan. The U.S. current military strategy in the Pacific is to prevent the peaceful reunification of Taiwan and China at all and any cost. Never mind, Taiwan is a small island, just 100 miles of China, and has been part of China since the Ming Dynasty in the 1600s. The U.S. recognized the historical fact and formally recognized there is but one China, but politics trump the law. No wonder the Native Americans, who are much wiser and smarter than us, say the white men speak with a forked tongue. That is so true. Those of us from the Asian community have an even greater urgency for peace. Since the United States started the Cold War against China, Asian Americans have seen their lives upended by racism and discrimination and hate. Asian women and men have been murdered, Asian children bullied and assaulted, Asian businesses vandalized, Chinese American scientists persecuted as spies. Many Chinese American high-tech workers had to give up their jobs because the United States banned them from working with China-associated high-tech companies. In every Chinese-American family living in the United States big cities, our personal safety is our constant concern for ourselves and for our children. And if war breaks out in America, which group do you think will be the first to fall in the United States? It's the Asian group. We need to speak up for peace and not leave it for others. We need leadership in our country that prioritizes domestic needs over foreign intervention. We need leadership that work for peace and prosperity and listen to the 99% of our population instead of the 1% American elites. We will support people who engage in intelligent diplomacy and work to end the war. These are the people we will support as leaders. So join me and say, no more war, no more war, no more war, and no more war, no more weapons, no more weapons, no more weapons. Peace is not a dirty word. Peace is not a dirty word. Peace is not a dirty word. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you so much, Julie. That's right. How do we feel about this war? Hey, hey, ho, ho. The war machine has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. The war machine has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. The war machine has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. The war machine has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. The war machine has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. The war machine has got to go. All right. All right. Our next speaker, representing the United Front Committee for a Labor Party, Steve Seltzer.
Thank you, brothers and sisters. You know, this war is destroying the world. And the United States has billions and billions of dollars for war, but people are dying in the streets of San Francisco because they don't have housing and health care. This is a crime. So who benefits from war? The war profiteers. This is a business. That's what capitalism is about, making money off of war. While people are dying in this country, people being flooded out. The climate crisis is a directly result of the war and these oil companies who really run the United States. We need a mass working class movement against this war. We need to shut this country down in a general strike to stop the war. The ILWU in 2008 shut down the West Coast against the Iraq War. We need the same kind of action today of all unions, of all working people. Today, there's a rally going on at the same time in Union Square of the teachers, and we should be united with the teachers because every dollar that goes for the war is a dollar away from education.
That's right.
That's what we're talking about. But the leadership of the AFT is for the war. And we have to say our unions have to start speaking for working people all over the world. They have to stop speaking against war machine. This war machine is destroying the world. This is about Iraq. Now they say that they're going to arrest Putin. How about arresting Obama? How about arresting the U.S. presidents who committed war crimes? What a double standard. They want to arrest Putin, but they won't arrest the war criminals that run this country? It's a joke. Now what we're saying is we have to organize politically. We cannot have a situation next year where it's only between the Republicans and Democrats. These are the parties of the war. We have to build a working class political alternative so people in this country have a choice. They don't have a choice right now. In San Francisco, the Democrats are corrupt. The Democrats is a corrupt administration. They're stealing money from the people. They're privatizing City College. They're shutting down Laguna Honda Hospital. These are the real struggles working people have. We have to defend our public resources. We have to stop privatization of the schools and charters. California is a rich state. It's a rich state, but it's at the top, the billionaires. They say they don't have money for the people here, but they're spending it for war. We say enough is enough. Let's organize in the working class. Let's shut this country down to stop these imperialist wars. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Yes. Can we get another big round of applause for Steve for putting it all out there? Yes. Thank you so much, Steve. All right. So really framing the next speaker, so how about this? Especially here in San Francisco, they got money for war, but they can't feed the poor. We're fired up, we won't take it no more. They got money for the war, they can't feed the poor. We're fired up, won't take it no more. They got money for war, but can't feed the poor. We're fired up, can't take it no more.
Got money for war, can't feed the poor. We're fired up, can't take it no more. Got money for war, can't feed the poor. We're fired up, can't take it no more.
Right? They got money for war, but can't feed the war. We're fired up and won't take it no more. With that, I'm going to introduce Bert Noor with the East Bay Democratic Socialists of America, really holding it down with the economic conversation of all this.
Hey, my name's Bert. I work with the East Bay chapter of DSA, and I'm also on the DSA International Committee, and also the Peace in Ukraine Coalition, which is another important anti-war coalition that's been out against the war since February. I want to start by saying people may have heard the ICC, the International Criminal Court, issued a warrant for the arrest of Vladimir Putin. And what I want to know is, where's the warrant for George Bush? It's long overdue. Where's the warrant for Dick Cheney? It's about time. That's right. Where's the warrant for Joe Biden? Joe Biden, who not only helped to spearhead congressional support for the Iraq war, but has cranked up the U.S. drive against Russia for war in Ukraine. And last but not least, where is the warrant for Bibi Netanyahu? Yeah! Where's the warrant for the crimes going on against the Palestinian people in Gaza and in the West Bank? Okay, so we talk about war crimes, we talk about International Criminal Court. Obviously, this is a very selective process. There's a lot of true and greater war criminals that never get brought before that court. Okay, and I want to say real briefly that the DSA International Committee has taken an anti-war and anti-imperialist position on many critical issues, including the blockade on Cuba. Why is there a blockade on Cuba? 70 years, over 70 years since the Cuban Revolution. The war in Yemen, which continues, the U.S. continues to arm Saudi Arabia and support the genocide against the Yemeni people. The aggressive Cold War against China and the moves toward war with China, as Julie and Mike have talked about, and as well as sanctions against the people of Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, and Syria, and many other things. So DSA is a lot more than the squad. You hear about the squad, and they are not, unfortunately, they are not on the right side against this war. They are supporting Biden's war policy, and that is reprehensible, because as a socialist, you cannot seriously be a socialist without opposing the aggressive imperialist policies of your own government. And that's why we're out here today. Okay. Now, the Iraq War. On February 16th, right here in San Francisco, there was a massive demonstration. There were over, depending on whose count you take, the police and the organizers said 200,000 people. 200,000 people. And that was part of millions of people worldwide. And first thing I want to know is, how many people were at that demonstration that are here today? Raise your hands. All right, and we're still here, and we're not going away. That's right. All right. How many people were too young to come to that demonstration? Right on. We need you here. We need more of the generations that didn't live through Vietnam or the Iraq War out here taking a stance against this war, and that is critical. On the day after the war started, right here in San Francisco, we shut down the city. We shut it down cold. That was done by a collective of civil disobedience groups that literally shut things down. There were over 2,500 people arrested on that day. I happened to be arrested. I didn't volunteer to be arrested, but I was arrested. How many people were arrested at that action? Okay, we got a few people here. And all I can say is, we need a lot more of that. We're going to need a lot more of that. demonstrations like this are important. We need to get bigger, but we need to disrupt the war machine.
Yeah.
We need to disrupt it through direct action. We need to disrupt it, as Brother Steve talked about, through job actions by the working class. And I know we have, okay, I'm putting up my hand. Okay, so hard to fit everything in 3 minutes. I'm going to wrap now. One last thing I want to say is there's a lot of lies about this war. And one of the big ones is that it's for our national security. It's for our security. And all I can say is, are the people living under freeways out on the streets in the cold, in the midst of atmospheric rivers secure? What are you doing about their security? Or people who can't afford health care in this country and are suffering from disease and unable to get medical care, what are you doing about their security? Are black people who suffer brutality and murder at the hands of the police, are they secure? What are you doing about their security? Was Tyree Nichols secure? George Floyd, Sandra Bland? Okay, I gotta wrap. Thanks so much. Glad you're out here. This is a turning point. This is a turning point. But what we do, what everyone here, what all of us do from this day forward will determine if this is built into the kind of movement that's required to stop this military madness. Power to the people. Stop the war.
That's right, power to the people. Number one terrorist in the world today, right here in the USA. Number one terrorist in the world today, right here in the USA. Number one terrorist in the world today, right here in the USA. Number one terrorist in the world today, right here in the USA. Woo! All right, our next speaker is a member of the State Central Committee of the Peace and Freedom Party, Marsha Finland.
Hi everyone. I'm really happy to see a bunch of people out here today. I wish there were more, but this is a good spirited crowd. So I want to talk about this war machine that everybody's talking about. What is this war machine? Well, I spent a little time memorizing something last night. Here it goes. Raytheon, Boeing, Lockheed, General Dynamics, and Northrop Grumman. What are those? Those are the private sector war companies that produce the weapons and the research for the weapons that are made in what country? Made in the USA. This is one of the few manufacturing sectors left in the United States, and it supports the many states that have war contracts. These companies in these states have contracts from the U.S. government paid for with our top tax dollars, right? And what's happening, you know what happened to the stock prices of these companies when Russia invaded Ukraine, when the war started? Guess what happened? Their stock prices went up. So who does that benefit? Does that benefit us?
Lockheed Martin!
Absolutely not.
Lockheed Martin!
It benefits those 5 corporations and many others, but those are the 5 big ones with the hugest profits. Okay, so I want us to think a little bit about what happened when COVID hit. What happened to the hospitals in this country? Was there enough capacity was there enough hospital and healthcare capacity to treat people with COVID and also people who are having babies, for instance, who have all sorts of other routine ailments or surgery scheduled? Was there enough space in the hospitals? No, there wasn't. You know why? Because the economy in this country operates on something called just in time, so that they're geared towards the minimal possible outlay for the needs at the time. So when all of a sudden the needs go up, there's not enough capacity. Well, guess what? Those 5 corporations and many others who are part of the war industry don't have to worry about just in time, because there's always what? A war for them. Now with the promise of U.S. of more military spending to send arms to Ukraine, these companies are going to gear up even more. But guess what? They want guarantees. They want multi-year contracts. They want less regulation. They want guarantees. So if anything happens and there happens to be peace in Ukraine, is that good for them? No. But guess what? That's not even enough. They want to make sure there are more wars. So is Ukraine the only place where there's saber rattling going on? Absolutely not. Look what's happening with the US and China. Look what's happening with the United States and Britain coming to a new arms agreement, a new submarine agreement with Australia. This is going on. This is escalating. And it's all for the benefit of the economy of these countries on which the U.S. economy is based. And why is the U.S. economy based on this kind of spending? What system is that? It's capitalism. What's the only way to combat capitalism? It's to have a socialist movement. And that's what we're trying to build in this country. That's what we need to do now.
That's right.
Thank you so much for making that clear for us. What a horrific system we're living in. Okay. And so for our next chant, I'll say, money for jobs and education, not for war and occupation. Money for jobs and education, not for war and occupation. Money for jobs and education, not for war and occupation. All right, thank you so much. And just to let y'all know, we are about halfway through the speakers list. We have a few more people that are really going to rock the stage. And I just want to uplift some words I heard on KPFA yesterday. So a Palestinian rights activist, Mateo Mosco, mentioned, we must leave the white man's ways behind and commit our lives to the people. And I think that's really what we're trying to build here is unity and people power. And with that, I want to introduce our next speaker. So could I welcome up to the stage David Newton from the International Longshore Warehouse Union 10 Local. Supporting our labor movement is so important, so really happy they could be here.
All power to the people.
All power to the people.
I have some people in the audience, my big brother Jack Heyman, who's a stomped down legendary longshoreman and activist in this movement. I'm a member of the ILWU International Longshoreman Warehouse Union. He always liked me to say that I am Dr. Huey P. Newton's nephew of the Black Panther Party. So we have two unions there. And shout out to Richard Becker put this together, and Steve Zelder spoke brilliantly out here. We need to stop this war. This war has no place in this world any longer. My big brother reminded me as we were coming here that an honorary longshoreman that came 6 months before his assassination is Dr. Martin Luther King. And he said the largest perpetrator in the world today of war is the United States. And that has never changed. That's today, that's right now. I want to say to my comrade Bert, I want an arrest warrant for Barack Obama. Because Barack Obama put military bases all over Africa.
That's right.
We talked about that this morning also. If you look in if you don't know about it, some soldiers were assassinated in the country of Niger not long ago. What were they doing there? We need to know. These bases are everywhere. This is the war machine, and we aren't with it. And my special heart goes out to these children that are being indoctrinated into a modern-day slavery. They're taken from eastern Ukraine right now, becoming slaves, and we've heard of that. It's called the international slave trade. And they're supposed to be thankful that they're going in this war to another family that they don't know. Well, thank you for making me the child of a slave, because that's what I am. I'm your product. So now they call me America's nightmare, and when I'm driving down the street with potholes in Tent City, when people can't afford to buy food, can't afford to buy gas, we can't drive the car when I run a stop sign. Or maybe I didn't even run the stop sign. Maybe I had a little emblem hanging from my rear view mirror. Or maybe I just looked black when I was driving. Power to the people. Let's stop this war. As the sister said, the largest terrorist in the world today is the United States government. I'm not with the Democrats. I'm not with the Republicans. We need a new independent party coming out here. I heard a quote just yesterday saying we need to listen to our young people, our older class, because the young people know things that we don't know. Our older class need to teach the young people because they know things that they won't know. So the younger people, if they'll listen, they'll be more advanced. And the older people, they'll listen, they'll be more advanced in their circle. Together, we can do this. And I want to remind you, lastly, what the fence means. 1 is me. 2 is you. 3 is them. 4 is some of us. 5 is all of us. Together we can't be beat. Let's make this fist stand up. Power to the people. Stop the war. Stop the war. Let's go.
The next speaker is a member of the Administrative Committee of the United National Anti-War Coalition, Jeff Mackler.
Hi. One of the previous speakers asked whether or not you were here for an anti-war demonstration 10 years ago. I was in San Francisco for an anti-war demonstration 50 years ago, and the slogan was, "Out now, bring the troops home now from Vietnam." We had 700,000 people there, and we forced the United States imperial war machine to get the hell out, but not before they killed 4 million Vietnamese. 20 years ago, the United States went to war against the Iraqi people and killed 1.5 million people, and we said, U.S. out now. And in 1983, the United States invaded Grenada. In 1973, they orchestrated a coup in Chile that killed 60,000 people. And they organized a war against the Syrian people that killed hundreds of thousands of people. Does anyone here believe that this war in Ukraine is any different? My view is out now. No U.S. intervention. Not a penny for the war machine. I represent several organizations. One, United National Anti-War Coalition. I bring you greetings from the Julian Assange Defense Committee. Julian's brother, as I'm speaking here, is speaking to the Washington, D.C. demonstration. We say free Julian Assange, free speech, for a free press. I also represent the mobilization to free Mumia Abu-Jamal. I'm the director. And this coming month, we are in court demanding that the courts free Mumia. Do you agree? And free Leonard Peltier. And free all political prisoners. I have something else to say. Are we just for freeing the prisoners, or are we ending the entire racist, classist, for-profit prison industrial complex? The society we want to build will abolish prisons and free them all. What we're looking at in Ukraine today was a U.S.-backed fascist-led coup. That coup was presided over by the then Vice President of the United States. The so-called Maidan protest was orchestrated by fascists who opened fire on the Maidan crowd, killing some of their own, stormed the Ukrainian parliament, took over the government, banned the majority parties, and appointed a government with 5 fascist ministers heading up a fascist army with fascist troops, and ordered them to march on the east in Ukraine to slaughter Russian-speaking people. And anyone who resisted that was considered the bad guys. I support the good guys who opposed the U.S.-backed fascist-led coup. What about you? I don't believe the United States is in the business of bringing goodwill, peace, and friendship to any nation on earth. The United States has 1,100 military bases in 110 countries. Take a guess how many China has. One base in the world, in Djibouti, along with 6 other countries. And the enemy, Russia, how many bases do you think they have around the world? They have a grand total of 6. I say dismantle every one of the U.S. military bases. Bring all the troops home now. Money for human needs. Free Mumia. End imperialist wars. Just exploiters. Out now. Bring the troops home now. End the war in Ukraine. Not one penny for war. Thank you. By the way, I'm also the National Secretary of Socialist Action, and the headline of our newspaper said, Ukraine, no to the proxy war and fascist coup. Thank you.
Can I get a free Leonard?
Free Leonard!
Can I get a free Mumia?
Free Mumia!
Can I get a free all political prisoners?
Free all political prisoners!
I'm Cynthia Papermaster from Code Pink Women for Peace, women and men, everyone. And I want to introduce Tell People May. Please have some manners. Please have some manners. Here's Tell People May from Code Pink. For 1 minute and then I'll come back.
Hello everybody, it's so wonderful to see you all here. My name is Toby. I've been working against the U.S. killer drone program, the racist killer drone program for 14 years, going to Creech Air Force Base. A week of protests twice a year. After 14 years, we found out that Creech Air Force Base moved their drone training to Holloman in southern New Mexico because we were having a good impact. The drone pilots were dropping out. They couldn't keep them in the program long enough. So in April, we're going to have a massive showing in Holloman Air Force Base for a whole week. I have flyers if you're interested. What this young woman, Nancy, said about what do we do to the military-industrial complex, what are the 3 words? Shut it down! What do we do?
Shut it down!
What do we do to killer drone bases? Shut it down! This is called shut down drone warfare. We are not quitting, and we need to do more than being at a rally. We need to do radical action. Non-violent, our foundation is non-violence because non-violence is the most powerful, effective tool we have. So if you want to come to shut down drone warfare, come and talk with me. I'll give you a flyer. Please join us. Bring friends. What are we going to do to Holloman Air Force Base in April? Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down!
20 years of lies, 20 years of spending billions of dollars. I'm with Code Pink and I say China is not our enemy. And I say the military, industrial, media, academic institution complex has a hold on our economy. They have a hold on our culture, our militaristic culture. And you can see that with the way the police behave toward us. We have to stop spending our money on weapons and misery and death. I'm with Code Pink and I say, enough, enough. And I also say, May 1, general strike. May 1, general strike. Whatever you're doing on May 1, I want you to change that up. Change it up. If you work, maybe take the day off. If you can't take the day off, don't shop. If you go to school, don't go to
after lie, torture, U.S. torture policy to justify going to war on Iraq. Iraq hadn't done anything to us. Lie after lie. And look at the streets of San Francisco with Madam Pelosi up there in her mansion. People sleeping on the streets. People can't afford health care. I could go on and on, but what I want to leave you with today is a loving uprising is what we need. And I want everybody to remember May 1. May 1. Don't just do the ordinary thing on May 1. Show our power on May 1. Thank you very much. And thank you to Richard Becker of Answer. Thank you to Diane, who's an organizer. I love you too.
Thank you, Cynthia. It's actually Nancy, but that's all right. Okay, up with the people. Down with the generals. 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 To introduce an organizer with the Answer Coalition and co-coordinator of the Cuba Venezuela Solidarity Committee and a mentor of mine, Gloria La Riva.
Sisters and brothers, it's so good to see us all here. The different nationalities, young and old, some of my old-timer friends, David Hartsock, Bob Mendel, David Bacon, and many others. And the young ones here who are leading the struggle. My name is Gloria La Riva. I'm from the Answer Coalition and also the Cuban Venezuela Solidarity Committee. 20 years ago, the U.S. began its last phase of the war in Iraq. The occupation, the destruction, the privatization of Iraq's oil. But 32 years ago, the United States bombed for 43 days and destroyed the water, the infrastructure, the food storage, the crops, the livestock. They murdered the people. They killed 250,000 people in 43 days. But they didn't achieve their objective. They couldn't occupy and overthrow the government. So for 12 years, the U.S. imposed a total blockade of Iraq, killing 1.5 million people. I was there 3 times. I saw the thousands of children dying. And then finally, with 9/11, the U.S. began its latest pretext and destroyed that country, a country of people of many nationalities that all got along. And now, we must remember that as the long vision of the U.S. to do whatever it takes to destroy an independent country in the Middle East, Latin America, or Africa. And I want to talk about Cuba in that regard, because Cuba has suffered a 62-year blockade. A blockade that's caused literally trillions of dollars in damage and caused the death of people, including the terrorism that killed 3,478 Cubans by U.S. weapons. And the U.S. dares to call Cuba a sponsor of state terrorism in order to tighten the blockade. That's a lie, and everyone knows it. Our struggle, sisters and brothers, is against our own government. The greatest purveyor of violence in the world, as Martin Luther King Jr. said. And it's gotten worse since he was alive. Now, other people have mentioned China and Russia. Both countries, before Russia went into Ukraine, the U.S. named China and Russia as the 2 countries that they would engage in a major power confrontation with. It's been planned for years. And the only source of power that we have to stop war is us, is the very people of the United States. I am so glad to be with all of you. This is the beginning, and it won't end, but it must grow. In Washington at the White House, people are marching. Albuquerque, New Mexico, Seattle, Washington, Los Angeles, here, everywhere, a lot of places. And In the U.S., 300 to 400 to 500 die every day. And in May, COVID funding is gone. Because all that money's got to go to Ukraine. To kill Ukrainians! Don't say that you are supporting Ukraine! No, you're not! You're not supporting the Ukrainian people who need peace today! You're not! Not one death was necessary in Ukraine. If Zelensky had just listened to the right argument that Russia needs security too. And so did Ukraine. The U.S. got involved. And so the U.S. imperialism must go. Long live Cuba. Long live the freedom fight for Leonard Peltier and for Mia Bujamal and the other political prisoners and so many people who do not belong in prison. Thank you.
And with that, I feel so lucky to introduce our next speaker. All of our movements of oppressed people across the globe intersect in really powerful ways. And I'm excited to introduce Aisha from the Palestinian Youth Movement to share some words about how our struggles are connected.
Thank you. My name is Aisha and I'm with the Palestinian Youth Movement. And we're here today on the 20th anniversary of the invasion of Iraq to oppose yet another U.S.-driven war of imperialism. We have seen the U.S. devastate the lives of Palestinians and people across the Arab world for decades. 20 years ago, the U.S. created a war that would end the lives of hundreds of thousands of innocent Iraqis, all in the interest of oil and domination in the Middle East. To this day, the U.S. funds the Zionist colonization and military occupation of Palestine, again in the interest of global economic power and hegemony. We want to recognize that to free the Middle East from the Zionist colony is one step closer to freeing the world from U.S. imperialism. From its illegitimate conception on Turtle Island to its current involvement in the war in Ukraine, the so-called United States has always found a way to create and perpetrate war for profit. Its colonial and capitalist expansion has always necessitated exploitation and oppression in order to achieve that world domination. And the U.S. empire has laid its imperialist body all over the global south, whether it is in Palestine, the Philippines, Cuba. The people will continue to strike blows at this beast. As longtime resistors of imperialism in our own homeland, it is our duty, it is our honor to stand with all liberation struggles across the globe. We demand an end to the U.S.'s reckless involvement in Ukraine and aggression towards Russia and the agenda to expand NATO. Just a few days ago, Poland announced that they
imperialism. But working people are always told to support wars that benefit the rich. Do you think that's fair? No! Do you think that's right? No! Since 2014, the U.S. has poured billions of dollars into Ukraine just to fight a war with Russia, and actually, none of that money ever leaves the U.S. Most of it just goes straight into the pockets of billionaires running the military-industrial complex. That's what they're cheering for over there. More money for billionaires here in the U.S. Do you think that's fair? No! Do you think that's right? No! Do you want your money to pay billionaire warmongers like they do? No! But Ukraine, the story goes on. Ukraine is part of decades of endless wars by NATO to benefit U.S. corporate interests. Millions of people have lived the horror of their entire countries being bombed out, broken up by NATO just because of the U.S. government. People in Libya and Yugoslavia were living in peace one day and then were bombed out of their homes the next. So I have to ask you a question. Do we support NATO attacking workers in other countries? No! Do we need to get rid of NATO once and for all? Yes! Friends, we are anti-capitalist. We are anti-war. We are anti-imperialist. All day, all the time, everywhere, for all people. And that means that we also want to stop AFRICOM. AFRICOM, people, that's where it's at for the U.S. government. AFRICOM is the colonial U.S. military spread out 28 bases across the African continent, dedicated to stealing the wealth and the people of Africa.
That's right.
I'm talking about places like Eritrea. I'm talking about Somalia. I'm talking about Ethiopia. I'm talking about the Democratic Republic of Congo. You know the saying, Africans are not poor. African people are poor, but Africa is rich and the capitalists want it. But we're not going to let them have it, are we? Friends, we are here to help African people stand up for their human rights. The rights to control their land, to control their resources, to stop Western corporations from forcing their children to pick cocoa and mine cobalt for phones. They want the right to trade with whatever country they choose. So friends, I ask you a question. Should Africans be controlled by AFRICOM? No! Do we want to shut down AFRICOM? Yes! That's right, friends. Shutting down NATO, shutting down AFRICOM is necessary for black liberation. If you've heard the saying, you know, black liberation means liberation for everyone. We must unite to rebuild the anti-war movement and stop the endless capitalist wars, friends. That is our task today. Are you with me? Yes! That's why we call for the U.S. to support peace in Ukraine and no more war on working people anywhere. Are you with me, friends? Thank you. We are the Black Alliance for Peace, and we say no compromise, no retreat. Thank you.
And next, I want to introduce, a movement that got me into this peace movement and fighting imperialism is the Puerto Rican struggle for independence. And so I'm so happy to introduce and welcome a longtime organizer in the Puerto Rican struggle, Ricardo Ortiz.
The main enemy is at home, down with U.S. imperialism. Some comrades have mentioned about U.S. bases. There are a few remaining in Puerto Rico. Munizer Base and Camp Santiago. As we kick them out of Vieques and some others, we will bow to kick them out of the remaining ones. Down with the U.S. imperialism. whose name is Natalie Jaresko, a former IMF World Bank official, to be the Minister of Finance in Ukraine to privatize Ukrainian state property. And that was not the first time that sinister character went down there. During the Clinton administration, that very same sinister character, an Ukrainian American, she was appointed to be the person in transition of the Ukrainian and post-Soviet states to capitalism. She led a task force of AID, World Bank, and State Department officials to privatize the Ukrainian economy by the Clinton administration and made Ukraine to borrow a few loans from the IMF, which has Ukraine indebted to the core right now. That very sinister character was appointed as the executive director of the so-called Fiscal Control Board in Puerto Rico to privatize the energy systems and other public properties, and also the retirement funds. And she put it at the hands of vulture funds investors. Thus, the hand of the U.S. imperialists in Ukraine and in the colonies. This very sinister character that the Obama administration appointed to be the executive director of the Fiscal Control Board was earning a salary of $600,000 a year. That's outrage. That's imperialism rampage, both in Ukraine and both in the colony of Puerto Rico.
That's right.
So, tell me about it. The enemy are not the Russian people, are the Yankee imperialists, and the European imperialists. And also, one colonial military command is the United States Southern Command that rules over Latin America. And we say, Southern Command out of Latin America.
That's right.
Long live the Cuban Revolution. We have to defend the Cuban Revolution with all our might. For the Workers' Party right here in the United States, let's get rid of capitalism. Let's get rid of imperialism. Toward a world without frontiers. Thank you to the Answer Coalition for your invitation. Thank you.
The next speaker, I also have the honor to introduce Ramsey Robinson with the Party for Socialism and Liberation.
What's up, y'all? They got money for war. They got money for war, but can't feed the poor. They got money for war. They can't feed the poor. And it's true, y'all. $858 billion to war, while 130 million of us struggle with hunger. Like Nancy said, I'm Ramsey with the Party of Socialism and Liberation, and we're here today to say loud and clear, the Biden administration and the Pentagon are on a reckless drive that's a danger to all of us, and not just us, but really all life on Earth. And this is not an exaggeration. Right now, with the massive arming and funding of the U.S. NATO system in Ukraine and the vast buildup of the U.S. military around China, these are huge, huge factors in the death drive that Washington is on the course to. This is a big problem, and this affects all of us. Now, why? Why are they doing this? They're doing this because they want absolute global domination at the expense of our lives. At the expense of our lives. Biden right now is saying we are in a struggle with China. We are in a conflict with China for, he says, who will win the 21st century. But the actual we, us, the people, we don't want anything to do with war with the people of China. Is that right? Yeah! We want nothing to do with the people of Russia. Is that right? Yeah! They are not our enemy. Our enemy is right here. Our enemy is imperialism. Our enemy is the corporate ruling class. Our enemy is the corporations that manufacturers. It's really the system that produces war after war after war when most of us lose out.
That's right.
Like we've been saying, we're here to mark in part the 20th anniversary of the criminal imperialistic war in Iraq. And a lot of people here remember this war and the lies and the deception that was around it. And they said there were weapons of mass destruction. Lies, there were none. And the corporate media willingly became mouthpieces for the Pentagon and the Bush administration to justify this war. To justify a war that killed 1.5 million Iraqis. And I just learned this last week. Half of those were children under 5 years old. I'm going to say that again. Half of those 1.5 Iraqis that were murdered were children under 5 years old. And it's the same corporate media that's trying to get us support again to fund these wars and get support against these wars. Are you going to believe that? No! Are you going to believe that? No! Right when this is happening, on March 1st, tens of millions of people wake up and our food stamps are cut. Some of us, over 90% of our food stamps are cut when they're putting $858 billion towards war. That's atrocious. And one more event before I close today. As that's happening, when another emergency happens, which affects only the rich and the uber rich, when the Silicon Valley Bank collapses, all of a sudden the federal government comes up with $150 billion. People like us who are struggling to eat get our food stamps cut. $150 billion to the rich. Are we going to accept this? No! Are we going to accept this? No! What do these events tell us? In conclusion, these events tell us that this current system is incapable of meeting our needs and the planet's needs. And this current system